Here we go, Treadwell DPT back again with another anatomy breakdown, muscle by muscle. Moving right along with our quad mini series, another very deep dive. Talk about that hidden head of our quadriceps group, the mystery member, the quiet force in between its partners, and behind that big dog, we've got the Vastus Intermedius. Not flashy, not superficial, but absolutely essential for what the quads do best, and that's generating that knee extension power and stabilizing the knee. So let's break it down. We've got origin, insertion, action, innervation, and a few clinical tidbits. Our Vastus Intermedius originates from the anterior and lateral surfaces of the femoral shaft, spanning the length of the upper 2/3 of that femoral bone. Its fibers run straight down, forming a thick central mass that sits directly beneath the rectus femoris. From there, it converges into the quadriceps tendon, which attaches to the base of the patella, the patella ligament to the tibial tuberosity. So it's just like the other three quad muscles in that regard. Same attachment, same insertion point. So origin again being the upper 2/3 of the anterior and lateral femur. And our insertion again is going to be that quadriceps tendon to the patella and then continuing down to the tibial tuberosity. Structurally pretty simple, but functionally very powerful. Our action is relatively simple as well, pretty easy to guess here. Our Vastus Intermedius is a pure knee extensor. No crossing of the hip joint, no fascial connections to the IT band, just straight line power to extend that knee. Often considered the deep engine of the quadriceps, generating torque quietly under the surface while the other heads get all the love. Because it sits so close to the femur, it's also thought to play a major role in the compressive stabilization of that patellofemoral joint, maintaining a smooth connection and consistent tracking during flexion and extension of the knee. Digging deeper into the research in that regard to really specify our function, the Vastus Intermedius isn't just along for the ride. It does a lot more than you might think. We've got a very interesting role that varies depending on the joint position and task. For example, one study found that Vastus Intermedius was the most active when the knee was more flexed, and its activity dropped off in the more extended positions, unlike those superficial quad heads. So it contributes primarily to the initial concentric and final eccentric phases of knee extension. These findings speak to Vastus Intermedius' major role in dynamic knee extension. Literature is pretty consistent in that regard. The Vastus Intermedius responds strongly to activity out of those flex positions, regardless of contraction type or speed. To that dynamic stability point, let's quickly take a good look at that patellofemoral joint and proximity to the Vastus Intermedius. In those deeper ranges of flexion, our patella is pulled deeper into that trochlear groove of the femur, and it's making a ton more contact than in those extended positions. Due to how deep the Vastus Intermedius is and how it sits directly on that bone, we see how as a pulley it has much better leverage on that quadriceps tendon than the other muscles would. Due to that increased contact area of the patella, we're more susceptible to pathological pain, especially with abnormal patellar tracking. So that, as a concept, speaks to the potential importance of the Vastus Intermedius in that dynamic stabilization and patellofemoral support role. What this means clinically is, in our rehab and strength training, we can't always be working near the end ranges of extension. We've got to be a little deeper. If you're always working those quads in that near extension position or relying only on those standard knee extension machines, you might be understimulating that deep engine of the quad, that Vastus Intermedius. Like we said before, the Vastus Intermedius really wakes up when that knee is more flexed or the task requires that joint control and stabilization. So if Vastus Intermedius recovery or growth is your goal, maybe you're trying to fine-tune the rehab towards more of a patellar tracking stability focus, You'll want to purposefully include that flex knee high activation work and not assume that our vastus intermedius will automatically keep pace with those other heads. What we can assume though is that femoral nerve innervation. Just like the rest of the quadriceps, our vastus intermedius is innervated by the femoral nerve, roots L2, L3, and L4. The main motor supply for that anterior thigh. No surprise at all. Just that consistency across the entirety of the quadriceps group. So femoral nerve, roots L2, L3, and L4. We'll hammer clinical applicability. Quad strength is so important when it comes to any kind of knee rehab. And vastus intermedius is usually the forgotten member in that regard. Because it sits so deep, it's one of the first quad heads to atrophy when the knee is immobilized or unloaded. Recent imaging work backs that up.
We've got a 2025 study that uses the quantitative MRI after ACL injury, and it found that vastus intermedius showed about a 20% reduction in cross-sectional area on the injured limb, along with some measurable declines in tissue quality markers. In a 6-month follow-up study after ACL reconstruction, 2024 study showed that intermedius and lateralis both atrophied very early. But the intermedius took longer to recover. That deep quad doesn't just shrink, it degenerates more quickly than its counterparts, even more quickly when you're not loading it. Across multiple imaging studies, the vastus intermedius consistently shows earlier and more pronounced atrophy than those superficial quad muscles. That lacking recovery may help explain why patients often regain visible quad mass, but still report weakness or instability later on. Vastus intermedius, being the deepest of the quad muscles and responding most to those deep flexion movements, receives less passive stretch and gets less mechanical stimulus during early recovery. That makes early intermedius re-engagement much more difficult. Our vastus intermedius doesn't respond much to low intensity activation or simple quad sets unless intensity and duration are sufficient. We always worry about and stress recovering that VMO, but longitudinal data supports that the vastus medialis tends to recover earlier than vastus intermedius once training resumes. The vastus intermedius requires consistent progressive resistance to fully return. The latest research heavily suggests that vastus intermedius atrophy precedes visible changes in the superficial musculature, and it can persist despite normalized strength scores, hinting at subclinical deficits. So clinically, this deep head is the one you can't afford to forget. The research overwhelmingly supports the VI being the hardest of the quadriceps muscles to recover post-surgery, particularly in those early phases. So keep that in mind. Even when you think you've made a full recovery post-ACL or post-TKA, you may still benefit from continued rehab to maximize that vastus intermedius strength. And we know where it gets active during those early concentric and late eccentric movements. So keep that in mind. Take that extra step to target your vastus intermedius and you'll maximize your knee recovery. Get a little deeper in your knee extensions and make sure you're really focusing on that early concentric and late eccentric activation. Hey, another one. There it is. There you have it. A nice little breakdown. We've got the vastus intermedius, the deep quadricep muscle, the quiet contributor, not flashy, not superficial, but absolutely vital to strength, stability, and control. One more quadriceps muscle to go, man. We're moving right along. Last but certainly not least, we've got the vastus medialis coming up next. Be there, be square, man. Much more in store, even more to come. As always, stay tuned, stay locked. Treadwell DPT. Catch you next time.